Let's explore how to ease back into meditation. No drama required. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit that reads as follows. Help me start meditation again. Give me some tips. I love this. This is very no-nonsense. The individual elaborates. I've tried meditation but failed to do it consistently. Can anyone help? Yeah, sure, you betcha. We're going to start with some broad brushstrokes. Then we'll move on to fine details. Otherwise, I just lose everybody, and nobody wants that. If you've just joined this morning's live stream, welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. So first of all, you didn't fail. Your strategy might have failed. More likely, the techniques you were taught didn't serve you. The people masquerading as experts failed you. Most of them are not malicious, just lazy-minded and ill-informed. But some people deliberately frustrate others as part of their business plan. Here, try this technique. It won't work, but for a little bit more, I'll teach you something that might. Oy vey, I kid you not. Lots of people act like that for many millennia. Beware of hacks who say you can't do anything unless you have a strong enough reason. Dude, if you have to gain leverage on yourself to do something, if you have to coerce yourself to do something, then you're not acting in a sustainable way. If we rely on our overworked prefrontal cortex to actively concentrate and actively contemplate, not only will we further exhaust our prefrontal cortex, which could present some symptoms of depression, but your blood mass will shift to the amygdala at the bottom of your limbic system, the seat of anxiety and aggression, which is the opposite effects than most people want. So when most people use bad instructions to overtax their prefrontal cortex and engorge their amygdala, no wonder they run away from meditation like a scolded puppy. There is this myth amongst the feeble-minded. Perhaps you've heard it. Well, if a little didn't work, try it again. This time more. Once again with feeling. Oy vey. No. It's gotta... Listen, when we stop relying on our prefrontal cortex to meditate and practice mindfulness, and we rely on our autonomic nervous system as we evolve to do, then mindfulness becomes easy. Meditation becomes freeing. The whole process is easy and efficient and pleasurable. We have evolved to be little tiny hedonists. We have whole sections of our underbrain devoted to dopamine and oxytocin. If something doesn't feel good, we can't be expected to keep at it. Anything worth doing is worth doing pleasurably. So, I have the gift/burden of having both ADHD and autism and 4 or 5 exacerbating factors. So for me to exercise, I got to find stuff that excites my dopamine response. So someone says, do this exercise you hate for only 6 months and you'll begin to see results. No. Got to find a way of doing exercise that is pleasurable now. Unfortunately, I've stumbled upon some tools that seem to work. But what applies to the gym, what applies to fitness, what applies to physical therapy, also applies to our training in mindfulness and meditation. If it's not pleasurable now, saying that it's worth it because someday you'll be a Buddha ain't gonna cut the mustard. It's got to be pleasurable now. Kind of like some people's biological clock goes off and they will date the first well-heeled individual that comes along, tolerating them because they just want the biological payoff. That ain't sustainable. You got to find someone that you can tolerate. You got to find someone that you can, with whom you share the necessary compatibility to have a friendship with. You have to date someone with whom you share a necessary sexual compatibility to be lifelong lovers. If it's hard work every day to be with this person, it ain't sustainable. Same thing with mindfulness and meditation. We have got to apply instructions that are pleasurable and easy and fit into our schedule. If someone says this only works if we're only able to do it full time, 8 hours a day, for multiple lifetimes, thank them for their time and then get the hell out of there. These guys are incorrect. The Buddha said full enlightenment could be accomplished in a week. Now, in his day, enlightenment was two things. There was the physical aspect and the mental aspect. The physical aspect is daunting for us Westerners because we weren't raised sitting cross-legged on the ground. For us, it takes an extra, 15 weeks of training until for us to gradually and gently build up to sit sustainably for 75 minutes. But did you know that if you can only sit for 5 minutes, given techniques you weren't previously given that are sustainable and easy, you can make progress. In just 5 minutes practice every 12 hours or so, you can experience greater peace, greater joy, greater love, greater creativity. If the techniques you've been given don't work in 5-minute increments, then find new techniques. If you've exhausted your teacher, then find a new teacher. There are plenty of us, I assure you. So James asked an excellent question that I will have to get back to, but it's a good question, James. So rather than just, we got to work smarter, not harder. We only have so much time. We only have so much energy. We only have so much willpower. Meditation is supposed to be a delight. It's supposed to be like making out. No one makes out because it's a chore. They make out because it really feels good. Mindfulness and meditation got to be the same way. I am chomping at the bit to share with you the fine details right now, which I will do after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping, because that's how YouTube works. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours almost every day studying, practicing, reverse engineering, and mastering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. James, I'm going to answer your question in about 15 minutes. Stay tuned. Maybe 10. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. We're going to start with the latest iteration of Easy Meditation. Word on the street is that it has been approved by Buddha Cat and Dharma Dog. Kind of a big deal. Okay, these are fictitious characters and I'm being a smartass, but it's fun, ain't it? Okay. Guys, it don't matter what you call it. You could call it Fred. You could call it Ethel. You could call it Sati Pasadi. You could call it Jana Mahmudara. You could call it Shan Pratuzan Zan Mahasandi. Atiyaga Dzogchen Trek Show. A pear tree with a partridge in it. Or simply mindfulness and meditation. I have an agenda. It's diabolical, I assure you. My agenda is to get you up to speed in just 4 techniques delivered in less than 15 minutes. That's right. Be careful. Your hair might ignite. My friends, what if enlightenment was nothing more than the mastery of the Buddha's Eightfold Path? Because I'm a big old weirdo, I like to start the Eightfold Path on the 7th fold, which is mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, whether we mean to or not, whether we feel it or not, we are accessing our sympathetic nervous system. No, it's not found in the big old 3-pound supercomputer between our ears. Where is it? It is ensconced within the thoracic or ribcage region of our spinal cord, despite the artistic liberties taken by the graphic artist. If you find a better image, please share it with me. No, the sympathetic nervous system has not evolved to support either weird extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. And what is it good for? Oh, it's good for perception. It's good to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. It has been said that vulnerability is the key that unlocks the door of mindfulness, the fee we pay, the price we pay for mindfulness. We never feel more vulnerable than when we are buck naked. Perhaps that is why the 2 individuals comprising this meditation archetype are depicted as naked. Now you might say, hey, man, I was told to concentrate upon my breath. If I'm not supposed to concentrate upon my breath, what am I supposed to do with my breath? We're going to treat your breath the way a piano student treats their metronome. When we feel our body spontaneously breathing in, we could recite the 12-syllable phrase, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. When you feel your body exhaling, you could silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. This is weird. This is ungainly. This is too many syllables. But this is an excellent shoehorn to get you started. For maybe the first 60 seconds, for those 1 or 2 minutes of your session, it's good enough to start you off. So what I'd like to do right now is practice this for 1 set of 16 rounds. Now, what's a round? In this context, a round is 1 inhalation followed by 1 exhalation. Now, the interesting question is, how am I going to keep track of 16 rounds on the 4 fingers and 1 thumb of my left hand? I'm going to use something I call Bengali crease counting. And it was very common in the part of the world where the Buddha lived, just like sitting on the ground is. So, here's how you go. I advanced my thumb during each inhalation, and I let it rest upon one of the sets of creases found on each of my 4 fingers, and one of the tips found on each of my 4 fingers. You are welcome to follow along, but I must warn you, I'm doing all this jibber-jabbering, therefore I'm breathing much faster than you. And the time that takes me to do 16 rounds, you might only do 12 or 8. Dude, that's not a problem. That's not an indictment. And as Morticia Adams said to Gomez, do not torture yourself. That's my job. Okay, so let's begin together with the first exercise, the 12-syllable exercise, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. This is not an affirmation. This is a commentary, just like Richard Attenborough. This is like Richard Attenborough doing a commentary on our real-time neurological processes. Let's dig in. All right, so if you've just joined, welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, don't be shy. Please type your question in great detail in the chat window. So we've just done our first of 4 exercises to get us up to speed. We're now moving on down to the second step. Or I guess moving on up. Yes, that's it. We come, oopsie, derp. So, quick review. Every time we inhale, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which is wired to perceive. We could perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We could perceive emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. All this perception takes place vulnerably and randomly. So we don't have to figure it out. Don't worry, I'm a lazy bastard. I'm going to teach you the easiest path to the mastery of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. I guarantee it. We could notice the external, the internal, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. What do we do with all the stuff that we notice? And that brings us to meditation, which is the eightfold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, whether we feel it or not, whether we mean to or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within both the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of the cervical region. This parasympathetic nervous system is evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation can begin to feel less graspable. Now, since all complex life forms on this planet evolved to think symbolically, let's sprinkle the seasoning of figurative language upon this. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation can begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is rather intangible to the hand? Perhaps that is why these 2 individuals comprising this archetype of meditation are depicted as translucent and as non-graspable as a rainbow. During this second exercise, during the inhalation, please silently and mentally recite sitting tall. This will remind the tissues of our body to generate a vertical traction between our thorax and our head. And our head. During our exhalation, let us silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. Now, if you do this 16 times, you'll probably make it to your first 5 minutes. And if you just do 5 minutes every 12 hours, that's one hell of a start. And that should start giving you pleasurable results. If it doesn't, come back, ask more questions, and we'll get to the bottom of this. We'll figure it out together. Don't pay no never mind to my boo-boo face. I look as cranky as Bert on Sesame Street. I'm just wrestling with a whole bunch of disabilities, and sometimes it makes me look like a cranky bastard. It's also my resting autism face, which is kind of scary. There was a very, very famous, now deceased mindfulness teacher who insisted that people should smile during meditation. The price of that contrivance is the symptoms of depression, and we force ourselves to smile when that smile is contrived and doesn't feel natural. We can exhaust our prefrontal cortex. We can increase the symptoms of depression. Better to be authentic deadpan than to pretend to be something or someone that we're not. We come now to the third step in our four-step process to get you up to speed. The first of three fringe benefits of our regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. Oh darn, I was supposed to fix that after class last night. Maybe I'll do it this morning. Just want to make this look prettier, that's all. Okay, so here's one of the first of three fringe benefits that I'm going to present to you from the paradigm of bad news, good news. First, the bad news. When we rely upon the medial portion of the prefrontal cortex to actively concentrate, and when we rely on the dorsolateral portion of the same prefrontal cortex to actively contemplate, our blood is going to collect at the amygdala at the bottom of our limbic system, which functions as the seat of both anxiety and aggression, which is sucky. No one wants to feel these things. We're meditating to feel the opposite of these things. Now here's the good news. When instead of relying upon active concentration, we rely upon passive mindfulness, and when instead of relying upon active contemplation, we rely upon passive meditation, just like you've already been taught this morning, then the blood mass shifts to our anterior cingulate gyrus, which shows up much better on this next page, right here. Hot pink, just like Miami Vice. Whoops, wrong button. And when that happens, when it floods into our anterior cingulate gyrus, our anterior cingulate gyrus is located just a few centimeters behind our forehead, and it functions as both the hub of our mirror neurons as well as the seat of empathy and compassion and love. Perhaps that is why the greatest Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is the spontaneous and uncontrived side benefit, or fringe benefit, of mindfulness and meditation. Perhaps that is also why the two individuals comprising the archetype of meditation are depicted as beautifully as the artist can make them. During this, our third exercise, during the inhalation, let us kick back and watch the antics of minds, perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. As silently and mentally we recite, notice this. During our exhalation, let's relax into mind's non-graspable nature as we continue to silently and mentally recite the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. In Buddhist mythology, we were told there was a Buddha. He may be real, he may be archetypical. Also in that same mythology, we're told he had a wicked cousin, Devadatta. In some texts, we read that Devadatta was divisive. He actually divided the Sangha. He put all his creative genius into grabbing power rather than actually be mastering the teachings. And so it didn't take very long after he grabbed power and divided the Sangha that all his newfound students left him and returned to the Buddha. What did the Buddha do? Did the Buddha hate him? The Buddha loved him, not because of contemplation, not because he wasn't human. The Buddha loved him because the Buddha practiced mindfulness and meditation. He was able to be mindful of what Devadatta was doing and what he was doing and the consequences of what he was doing. The Buddha was able to be mindful of how he felt about the whole thing, but he was also able to relax and release in harmony with his breathing. Noticing and releasing is the key to coping. To coping with fiends without becoming sanctimonious monsters ourselves. But wait, there's more, which I will explore in just a few moments. At last we come to the fourth of 4 introductory exercises, guaranteed to get us up to speed. But first, let's explore the second of 3 fringe benefits that we get from a regular practice of mindfulness and meditation. Please consider this artwork. Consider the gal, the color of a cumulus cloud, who appears to be actively sporting in tantric union. She reminds us that contrivance is always trumped by spontaneity. Now consider her partner, the color of the azure sky, who appears to be passively savoring the same tantric union. This reminds us that not all spontaneity is created equal. In fact, it also reminds us that the scattered spontaneity we partake of when we have that third espresso in 30 minutes will always be trumped by the centered spontaneity that we generate through our practice of mindfulness and meditation. Now, I talked about doing an edit on this page, so quick like a bunny, I'm going to try to set myself a digital reminder. Now, I got to make sure that the, what's it called? The display is still kosher. Okay. When our choices, utterances, and deeds flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, the effortless effort that is the sixth fold of the Buddha's eightfold path and the direct consequence of our practice of mindfulness and meditation, our lives could feel as blissful as if they were a real or imagined paradise or pure land or vati depicted in Buddhist art. So, how did the Buddha deal with his wicked cousin Devadatta? Well, we know how he dealt with his emotions by noticing and releasing. How did he deal with his behavior? How did he know what to do and what to say to cope with the... what's the word I want to use? The wranglings, the actions, the stratagems, the skullduggery of his wicked cousin? The Buddha relied on the centered spontaneity that is generated by mindfulness and meditation to guide him, to guide his choices, to guide his utterances, to guide his deeds. Flowing from centered spontaneity is more than the sixth fold of the Buddha's eightfold path. It's the key to a fulfilling and meaningful life. It's the key to being the person that our dogs and cats already hope we are. During our inhalation, please silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our exhalation, please silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb is. Now that we've climbed to the contemplative cruising altitude together as a team, let us meditate as profoundly as Qui-Gon Jinn on Naboo. James wrote, I love when I ask a question and they answer on how to be more like Gautama, and the answer is something you have already taught how to do. Such is life. Such is life. I kid you not, this is a common experience for every student, for every teacher. You teach something every day for 300 days, and then on the 301st day, someone says, that's astonishing. Why haven't you taught us that before? Why have you been keeping this from us? It's just like reverse archaeology. You know, it's just bit by bit, the picture clarifies. Or I'm an incompetent teacher. The third fringe benefit of mindfulness and meditation is this. The first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path right view of impermanence. As we breathe in, we notice things, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. As we breathe in, we notice things, whether we want to or not. As we breathe in, we notice things, perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. As we breathe in, we notice things change, whether we want them to or not. Those changes could be subtle, those changes could be coarse, they could be slow, they could be jarring. Those changes could be pleasurable, they could be painful, they could be interesting, they could be boring, they could be glorious, they could be grotesque. Ever-changing, one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. And so we exhale. And then relax. And then release. One time I had a student, and I would use the phrase, well, let's see what the Mahasatipatthana Sutta has to say on this subject, and I would find the answer. Finally, she got so annoyed with me. She's all, that's your answer for everything. I don't need you at all. All I need is the Mahasatipatthana Sutta. And then she just waddled off, and I never saw her again. As mentioned previously, or as inferred in the opening discourse, we can progress as slowly as 5 minutes a week. For learning how to sit for us Westerners can be a bit of a challenge, but here's some tips. For the sake of your ankles and the tops of your seat, rest upon a folded yoga blanket, which you can acquire from Amazon. Rest your tushy on a zafu, which is a circular disc, 4 to 6 inches high, full of buckwheat. Once again, you can get that on Amazon if you want. Nominal, won't cost you a lot of money. Ask a ballet student. They'll tell you, do not turn out from your knees. Your knees are only hinge joints. Turn out from your hips, for they are ball joints. Notice in this ancient style statue, the Buddha's legs are not grotesquely twisted into the full lotus posture. That's just a manifestation of elitism. One lower leg is just resting upon the other. If that seems like an impossibility at first, don't force it. Relax into it. Let gravity do the work. And if you relax into it for 5 minutes every 12 hours, within a week or so, it'll be easy peasy lemon squeezy. So, train for 5 minutes every 12 hours the first week. Bump that up to 10 minutes the second week. Bump that up to 15 minutes the third week. Progressing this slowly cultivates what I describe as divine impatience, where progress feels like something an eagerly anticipated treat rather than an odious task. By progressing at this seemingly glacial rate, it gives your body and your mind and your schedule and your companions time to adjust. Or as Tommy Lee Jones' character, Kay, said in Men in Black, take your time, gives them the opportunity to get the wrong impression, makes things go smoother. So progressing thusly after, by the conclusion of the 15th week, you could be comfortable with sitting for 75 minutes a pop, which would be one 15-minute discourse followed by a 60-minute meditation session, a partridge, and a pear tree. Cowabunga. My favorite translation of the second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path is wishing love. In addition to training and mindfulness and meditation, next time you're, shaving, listen to Democracy Now! Channel on YouTube, specifically their headline news. It's about 8 to 12 minutes, 5 days a week, and boy, I tell you, that will fuel the fires of your wishing love. You will wish that people were free from genocide. You will wish that people were free from famine and murder and exploitation and fascism spontaneously. So, as the wise and insightful James inferred, there are two paths we can walk on. We can walk on the path of Devadatta, who in his very great folly thought it was a really good thing to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. But he was not alone. Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, and not in the fun, tingly way. That would infer spiritual teachers of each sect of all religions. Even New Agey teachers who don't believe in gods and goddesses, as some might not. That's fine. And every sect of humanity, in every arena, the vocational, the recreational, the personal, the platonic, the intimate, you're going to find a whole bunch of people who think it's just brilliant to be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Even Shakespeare's Hamlet proclaimed to his mother, "I must be cruel to be kind." And before you know it, they were both dead. Good going, Hamlet. So, did you know that proponents of the path of Devadatta, whether they know that's the name of it or not, whether that's called the path of Devadatta, or the path of Yang, or the path of quasi-spiritual patriarchy, they actually begin to rail against empathy and kindness and love and compassion. A notable, a prominent evangelical minister a year or two ago wrote a piece, had it published, saying that empathy was unrighteous. Yeah, ignore that part in 1 John when it says God is love. Ha ha, because this guy knows better. But didn't the Catholics do that during the Inquisition? I mean, good old Thomas de Torquemada did his best to barbecue as much of my ancestors as possible. Not a very cuddly fellow. So there will always be people who rage against empathy. There's be some people who close their eyes and lift their chin and swell their chest and say, "Well, you know, it sounds like attachment to me, so you shouldn't really do it." Yeah, clearly you know much more than the Buddha. Good going. Let us divinely bring the four bases of mindfulness into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever bodies or forms we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel sensual, yet as non-graspable, as an archetype of enlightenment known in Tibet as a yadom, comprised only of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever perception, emotion, intention, thought, memory, and imagining we could clearly notice during our inhalation, during our previous inhalation, could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a real or imagined one-syllable mantra comprised only of light, symbolizing a Buddha's enlightened mind. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever experience of the interpersonal, which is we experienced during our inhalation, which is typified by communication, both verbal and nonverbal, could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a real or imagined mantra comprised only of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever circumstance or lot we might have noticed during our in-breath could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a real or imagined Buddha's paradise or pure land or vati, comprised only of light, appearing yet non-graspable. During our inhalation, let us kick back and watch the antics of mind as silently and mentally we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our exhalation, let's continue to relax into mind's non-graspable nature as silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb, ease. Let us bring our body's 5 regions into the path of bliss and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever lower abdomen we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Amoghasiddhi Buddha, comprised only of emerald-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever navel region we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it is as non-graspable, as real or imagined Ratnasambhava Buddha's body comprised only of gold-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever chest we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Akshobhya Buddha, comprised only of sapphire light. As we breathe in, let us silently and mentally recite the noun chest. As we exhale, let us silently and mentally recite the verb ease. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever throat we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Amitabha Buddha comprised only of ruby-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever crown we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Vairochana Buddha comprised only of diamond-colored light. Let us now relax into spontaneous awareness and letting go. Let us bring the Iron Age perception of the 5 elements into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever wind element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel moving, yet void. Void, of course, being a synonym for non-graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever earth element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel stable and solid, yet non-graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever water element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel moist and cool, yet void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever fire element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation can begin to feel warm, yet void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever space element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel vast, yet non-graspable. Let us rest in spontaneous awareness and letting go. Let us bring the 5 aggregates into the path of awareness and letting go. As we breathe in, whatever form or body we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although it could be tantalizing to the eye, is non-graspable to the hand. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever feelings of pleasure and pain we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if they were as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, however we rated or appraised the intensity of the pleasure and pain we previously noticed, could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast open space. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever survival drives might have been stimulated by that appraisal could begin to feel as if they were less influential over our choices, utterances, and deeds. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness we might have experienced during our previous inhalation could feel less graspable. Let us rest in spontaneous awareness and letting go. Let us bring the so-called 5 mental poisons into the path of awareness and letting go. Now, if you've just tuned in, don't be shy. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Oh, excuse me. Ooh. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever befuddlement we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as all-pervading wisdom. During the inhalation, please silently and mentally recite Dao. During the exhalation, please recite the verb ease, which is a synonym for relax. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever jealousy or competitiveness or vying we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as all-accomplishing wisdom. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever craving we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as discerning wisdom. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride or self-importance we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, or self-centeredness could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as equalizing wisdom. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hate we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as mirror-like wisdom. Let us rest in spontaneous awareness and letting go. And this is whatever comes up. Whether this is external or internal or physical or mental or pleasurable or painful or interesting or boring or glorious or grotesque. Let us bring the duality of the five perceptions into the path of non-duality's awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever duality of beauty or ugliness we might have noticed during our previous inhalation can non-dualistically melt into the simple experience of seeing. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of certain things being fragrant and other things being foul, and our corresponding attachment and aversion, the two could simply melt into the non-dual simplicity of simply smelling. As we relax into our exhalation, the dualistic experience of hating discord and loving harmony could non-dualistically melt into the simplicity of simply hearing. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hate of the disgusting and love of the delicious we might have dualistically experienced during our previous inhalation could now non-dualistically melt into the simplicity of just tasting. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualism of hating pain and loving pleasure could begin to non-dualistically melt into the simplicity of simply feeling. And for this morning's final meditation together, let us simply relax into spontaneous awareness and letting go. Let us seal this morning's practice by percussively chanting an excerpt from the total space of Vajrasattva, composed oh so many centuries ago by Prahe Vajra in the Swat Valley of contemporary, is it Afghanistan or Pakistan? I do not recall. If you recall, please let me know in the chat window. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.